Hello and welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to be covering digital painting. Digital painting is a form of painting or a form of drawing on a computer. Now, originally, this was created in the 1960s with a CAD program or a computer-aided design software. This was a program that was pretty much used for blueprints and layouts and things like that for engineers and structural designs. Later on in the 1980s, computers became more accessible. They still were not the laptops that we have today, but they were beginning to appear inside people's houses. And a truly revolutionary painting application emerged, and that was called MacPaint. It was available for the Macintosh computers, and it was very simple and basic, but you could draw with it, and it was considered painting. Later on in that same year, a new application came out that is still around today. In 1988, the program called Photoshop emerged. It was then called Display, but later renamed to Photoshop. And Photoshop is the program that has stuck around and withheld the test of time. It is considered to be the big dog of all photo manipulations and photo editing or digital painting software. So digital painting has actually taken off quite a bit in recent years. It used to be not very popular. However, it has become more popular due to the fact that you don't have to clean up messes. It doesn't require very much at all to get started. Mainly, you just have to pay the money up front to get a device of some kind to be able to digitally paint on, and that's it. After that, it's very easy to send your work off, and in most cases, you can actually replicate pretty much the same thing that you can do in reality, but in a digital format. There are lots of big names. The applications range from free things all the way up to paid for applications like Photoshop. Photoshop right now for the bare bones basics edition, which is the essentials edition, is $30 a month. Now it goes up from there if you would like the Pro CSS version. Of course, that costs more. There's other applications as well, which is some of them listed here. Affinity Photo is one, which is a flat fee of $50. Then you can get into some free applications like GIMP or PhotoPea or Paint.net. All of these are applications that you can use to digitally paint, and they all pretty much have something in common. Almost every one of the digital painting applications you use they are going to try to replicate Photoshop in some way. This is a screenshot of Photoshop, what it looks like. And I'd like to point out to you, right here on the left-hand side, this is what is known as the toolbar. This is basically the standard as far as photo editing or digital painting programs go. They all try to mimic this toolbar that Photoshop has on the side. Something else that they try to mimic is right here. This is called the layers panel. And layers are really neat for a reason I'll get to later, but every digital painting application is going to try to have those as well. This is an application known as Krita, and as you can see, it basically has the same layout that Photoshop did. As I mentioned before, everything tries to mimic Photoshop. Krita is also a free digital painting application. It's actually specifically meant for digital painting, so it's not really used for photo editing as much, but it can be used for that. So what's the difference between digital painting and traditional? Well, first off, I mentioned the layers. Imagine a layer kind of like a transparent piece of paper or a piece of plastic. You can lay a piece of plastic over top of, say, a book. And let's say you take a marker to that piece of plastic and you draw all over it. Well, what you drew is not going to affect the book under it because you're drawing it on the clear plastic over the book. And at any time, you can just take that clear plastic and move it around or just crumble it up and throw it away. That is how layers work. You can stack things on top of one another and you can see through it. Using that, you can actually build up different layers and build up paintings. And if you don't like something, you can just remove it and that layer's gone. One of the biggest advantages to doing digital painting is an undo button. Yes, there is an undo button in digital painting. In traditional art, it is frowned down upon to trace. However, in digital painting, it's not really tracing because you can lay an image or a transparency, a layer over top of an image, and you can paint over top of that. And you're not really tracing it at that point. You're still painting it, but you have a closer guide so you can look at what you're painting, compare it even closer, and you can get it more accurate. So it's a lot easier for comparing your artwork and actually painting your work. Another thing that layers is useful for is, let's say, for instance, in this picture of the owl, you got the front owl done. You have his wing, the body, the head. That looks beautiful, but oh no, you forgot to paint the background. Well, all you have to do is put the background on a separate layer, and then you can just move the background around as much as you want, and it will not affect the layer over it. Okay, so what is your assignment? Your assignment, I am going to be showing you PhotoPea, and we are going to be watching several videos and introducing you to different tools with PhotoPea. So this lesson is actually going to last about 2 weeks, and I'm going to be showing you lots of different methods and lots of different techniques inside of PhotoPea. Each lesson I will give you is going to have a different set of standards that you need to meet. Most of them will just last a single day. You will need to save your work and turn it in for that assignment for that day so you can get credit for it. Now, in the final week of the project, we will be having a larger project, and that is where you take all the things that you have learned in the previous lessons and apply them to that lesson. So you will need to follow along and watch the video so you know what to do. But first, let me show you some examples of student work with digital painting. And these are very similar to what you're going to be doing or what you could do. I always do like to let my students pick what they choose, but these are examples of some of the final projects that came out of the class. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with our lesson. Okay, so let's first start by going to PhotoPea. You want to go to Google and you want to type in photo and then P, P-E-A, not the nasty kind of pea, the pea that you eat. Okay, and then you're going to be greeted with this. Now, it's the first option, photopea.com. Open that up, and the reason why I have this brought up in incognito mode is because I wanted to show you this banner that you get. Now, this banner only shows up for the first time that you enter it, and how you close out of it, you just click that big old X right there. You click that, and it's gone. So this is PhotoPea. PhotoPea looks and acts very, very similar to Photoshop, and that's why we are going to be using it. PhotoPea is a free online painting application or photo editing application that will also take Photoshop files, Illustrator files, and all kinds of different file types. Now, because it is a free online painting application, you will have ads over on the side. So if you have an ad blocker, a lot of times the schools have ad blockers put in place anyway. You probably won't see these. And sometimes if you do have ad blockers on, PhotoPea will come up and tell you to turn them off because, well, that's how PhotoPea makes money. So let's go ahead and get started. First, you are going to notice this box right here that's telling you to either open a project or start a new project. For the example that we have in this lesson, we are going to start a new project, and you can either click New Project or you can go up to File and New. Both do exactly the same thing. Whenever you start a new project, you're going to be greeted with this window here. Now, these settings are your default settings that more than likely you're going to be using these and you won't really need to change them. I will be going over this section down here later, but for the time being, you can use these settings. Now, if you notice that your computer is a little bit slower and it's not loading it properly, you can change these settings around to 720 by 680, and that will give you roughly the same resolution. But for the time being, I'm going to keep that at 1280 by 720. So that's the default settings, and we'll go ahead and click Create. When you click Create, you are going to be greeted with this blank white rectangle. This is what is known as your canvas. The canvas is what it sounds like. That's your area that you are going to be painting on. Now, the first thing you always want to do when you start a new canvas is start a new layer. This section right here, this is your layer section, and as you can see, the layer that you are currently on and you have selected is called the background layer. That means whatever you do on this artwork is going to be on the background layer. You don't want to do that. Instead, you want to go down here to the very bottom where it says new layer, and you want to add a new layer. When you click on this little paper icon with the folded over corner, you're going to see that a new layer is populated in and it is now selected. At this point, we can go ahead and start painting. The tools that you're going to use to paint with are located right here on the toolbar. The first one is the paintbrush. If you mouse over this little paintbrush icon, it's going to show you the paintbrush tool, and you can do the little shortcut key, which is B. And if you click B or click on the paintbrush, you'll see that you now have a paintbrush selected. At this point, you can go over and just click and drag, and you can paint on the canvas. If you want to change the color around, what you can do to do that is go down here to the little red square and the little black square. If you click on that first square, it's going to come up with a color picker. This color picker will let you pick any color or any hue of the color that you currently have selected. So this slide bar will let you change from red to orange to yellow through all the different colors. And you can see that the colors are changing. So let's say that I want to select blue. I come here to blue, and I move this little cursor around to wherever I want it to be, and you can see that this is our new color we have selected, and this is our old color. And we click OK. And now you can see that blue is our color, and whenever I paint, I can start painting with blue. So that is how you change colors. What about brush size? Well, if you look up here at the very top while you have your brush selected, you can see the brush icon and a little circle icon with the number 15 under it. If you click the little triangle next to it, you're going to see all these different settings. The first setting is the size of the brush. So I'm going to keep this one out over here so you can see the size increase and decrease as we change this slider. That is the size of the brush that you currently have. And these right down here are the different types of brushes, so you can select different ones for different effects. Okay, well, let's say that you did something and you want to erase what you currently have. Well, that is easy enough to do. All you have to do is you can use the eraser. It's this little rectangle that has two different colors on it. And the eraser works how you would expect it to work. It erases what you have done. You can also change the size on that as well if you want to, same way that we did with the other one. Or let's say that you don't like this layer at all and you want to get rid of it. All you have to do is make sure your layer is selected and go all the way down here to the little trash can and click the trash can, and your layer is now gone. But what if you made a mistake and you don't want to delete the layer, or you painted something and you just want to back out, you want to undo it? You can either go to Edit and step backwards, which is Control Z, or you can just click Control Z and it will step backwards through it. That's simple. Okay, now the final thing that I want to show you is why layers are important. And as you can see right here, I am right now clicking, dragging, and moving this artwork around. And you can see in my layers panel that it's also moving around as well. Well, let's say that I want to keep this the same, but I want to add something over top of it. All I have to do is add a new layer, and I want to add in a smiley face. So let's go down here, get our paintbrush out, and I'm going to add in a smiley face right here, and then boom, boom, smiley face, more like a star. Well, that looks great, but I want to move that star. If I come up here to the Move tool, which is a little cursor icon, I can now move my star anywhere I want because it is on its own layer. Or I can select my background layer and move the background around any way I want. What I want you to do, I want you to create your very own artwork using the paintbrush tool. Make sure you start a new project, File, New. You need to add a new layer, and then you need to use the paintbrush tool to create your very own artwork. And I don't care what it is as long as it's school appropriate. That is your assignment. Whenever you get finished with your assignment, you are then going to go up to File and Save as PSD. When you do that, if you have your computer set up to ask you where you would like to save it to, you can select to save your project somewhere. Or most of my students have their Chromebook set up to automatically save to their downloads folder. So at that point, whenever you click File, Save As, and you save it, it's going to be in either your downloads folder or where you have specifically told the computer to save it to. Then you need to upload that to the Google Classroom so I can verify that you did your assignment. So yes, your assignment, make an artwork using the paintbrush tool. Thank you all very much. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you cut. All right, so thank you all very much. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will see you all back in the classroom.